Elon Musk has warned us about AI, about deepfakes or collapsing birth rates, but in a lesser-known thread woven through his 2024 interviews and shareholder meetings, he pointed to something far more personal. The most toxic thing Americans are eating is already on their shelves. Not coming, already here. And not just once in a while, but every single day. That statement was a summary of growing evidence in FDA recalls, CDC outbreak investigations, and independent lab reports released throughout 2025. From baby food laced with arsenic to frozen fruit carrying hepatitis A, to healthy school lunches packed with cancer-linked preservatives, the American food supply is weaponized against the vulnerable. You trusted labels. They gave you chemicals. You believed it was safe. They called it cost-effective. So how many lies have you swallowed between bites? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today we're connecting the dots Musk saw coming and exposing the everyday foods that may already be poisoning you and your family. Number 1. Lunchables. Imagine this. You open a small, cheerful yellow box, and inside is the American dream, shrunk, sealed in plastic, and sprinkled with preservatives. That's what Lunchables became. A quick fix and also a cultural badge. Throw one in the lunchbox and it says, "I care, but I'm tired." For overworked families, it felt like a life preserver in a sea of chaos. So tidy and affordable. But what if that bright little box was hiding something much darker? In April of 2024, the Center for Science in the Public Interest pulled back the curtain, and what they found was enough to curdle your blood. Lunchables, the ones distributed through school lunch programs, were drowning in sodium with over 900 milligrams in some versions. That's a figure that would make even a McDonald's salt packet sweat. And this wasn't the deluxe model, but the school-safe version, specially designed for cafeterias. Designed, apparently, to quietly clog tiny arteries before the third-grade spelling bee. The report didn't mince words. Nutritionally obscene, they called it. Processed meat laced with nitrates, the same class of chemicals linked to cancer, ultra-processed cheese, and cookies loaded with sugar. It's the kind of meal Frankenstein might pack his kid if he wanted him addicted by recess, and yet Kraft Heinz called it a balanced solution. Their first quarter earnings report in 2025 bragged about an 11% spike in Lunchables sales, driven by school deals and cost-conscious households. Translation: the poorer the zip code, the more these boxes are showing up. Because when you can't afford better, barely legal starts to look like good enough. But maybe we've all been looking in the wrong direction. Maybe it's not just corporate greed. Maybe it's a patchwork food system that rewards life over shelf health. A broken setup where schools have to stretch pennies until they snap, where parents have 2 jobs and 0 time, and where processed food isn't just tolerated, it's subsidized. And yes, maybe Kraft is just playing the game they were handed. Compete on cost, not quality. Fill stomachs, not minds. Hit profit goals, not nutritional ones. In a system where short-term wins get applause and long-term damage gets buried, could we really expect them to act differently? So let's ask the harder question. How many kids grow up thinking this is what lunch is supposed to taste like? How many parents feel cornered into buying something they know isn't right? And how many of us have been tricked into thinking convenience equals care? You don't have to overhaul your life. At places like Aldi, you can piece together snack boxes with real food, eggs, fruit, nuts, pita, all without breaking the bank. Farmers markets now match SNAP benefits. One Sunday evening with a cutting board and a little music might buy your family 5 days of peace and protection. What did your lunchbox look like back then? And now that we know more, do we still stay silent or start choosing something better? Number 2. Skittles. They said, taste the rainbow. But no one warned us that the rainbow might be radioactive. Skittles didn't just offer sweetness, they wrapped themselves in the illusion of innocence. Little colorful drops of joy that jingled in Halloween pails, spilled from vending machines and snuck into lunchboxes like a wink from childhood itself. It felt like candy you could trust, harmless, happy, American as a 4th of July parade. But behind the crinkly wrapper, a secret was simmering for decades, one that now leaves a bitter aftertaste. In 2024, the truth finally broke through the sugar shell. Consumer watchdogs, including the Environmental Working Group and the Center for Science in the Public Interest, pulled the curtain on a chemical culprit hiding in plain sight. red dye number 3. The same additive that's been banned in cosmetics since 1990 for causing cancer in lab animals? That one. Still allowed in our food thanks to regulatory loopholes you'd need a lawyer or a lobbyist to understand. And where's it showing up the most? Candy bowls, trick-or-treat bags, and yes, inside every cheerful handful of Skittles. California didn't sit quietly. In October 2023, they passed AB 418, a bold move banning Red 3 and other additives in all foods sold by 2027. Mars Inc. responded the same way a child caught with their hand in the cookie jar might no apology, just a quiet reformulation announcement. Not nationwide, mind you, just for California, because apparently a carcinogen only becomes a problem once a state draws a red line. But the betrayal cuts deeper than a food dye. For decades, Mars sold Skittles with whimsical slogans and rainbow-colored ads, never mentioning that the bright red came from a petrochemical compound tied to thyroid tumors. They marketed fantasy while dancing around facts. European countries banned Red 3 in food years ago. Here in the States, still generally recognized as safe, buried in old paperwork like a bad habit no one wants to kick. There was even a lawsuit dismissed in 2023 that called Skittles unfit for human consumption. It didn't win, but it struck a nerve. Stores in Oregon and Washington began pulling candy with Red 3 before they had to, like cleaning the house before guests arrive, or before the truth becomes a headline. Now let's be fair, Mars isn't running a chemical lab in a dark alley, they're running a business in a broken system. Reformulation costs more. Natural dyes aren't cheap, and when your competitors keep using cut-rate additives, do you take the moral high ground, or wait for someone to regulate you into it? So what can we do? Start swapping. Brands like Yum Earth, Smart Sweets, and Unreal are ditching synthetic dyes and showing it can be done. If your sweet tooth's calling, why not answer with something that doesn't whisper, lies in fine print? Even frozen grapes or beet-colored gelatin can be just as fun without the chemical baggage. And now comes the gut punch. How many other pantry staples are hiding banned ingredients in broad daylight? How long have our kitchens doubled as chemistry sets? Skittles sold us a smile, but was it sugar-coated truth or a glossy little lie dressed as childhood? What's your take? Number 3. Imported farmed tilapia. It's sold as a clean catch, the humble hero of the frozen seafood aisle. Tilapia, soft, boneless, heart smart, and easy on the wallet. Doctors recommend it, cafeterias serve it, hospital trays roll it in like it's some sort of peace offering to the health gods. It's been called the poor man's salmon, but lately, it's looking more like the food industry's dirtiest open secret, and the more you dig, the worse it smells. Here's what they don't put on the label. Over 80% of the tilapia on American plates isn't from US waters. It's flown in from mega farms in China and Vietnam. According to Food and Water Watch's 2024 findings, the reality beneath that flaky fillet would make your stomach flip. These fish aren't swimming in streams, they're packed shoulder to shoulder in concrete tanks, pumped full of water that's been recycled from nearby pig farms. Yes, pig farm runoff. It's used to grow algae, which the tilapia then eat. That's not farm to table, that's pig waste to pond to plate. To keep the fish alive in those disgusting conditions, farm operators pump in antibiotics like candy, including substances banned in the US for food-producing animals. In early 2024, the FDA flagged several Chinese suppliers for lacing. They're fish with malachite green and nitrofurans, both linked to cancer. Some shipments were stopped at the port, but how many more slipped through? That's the kind of question that keeps you staring at your dinner in a whole new light. Consumer Reports didn't mince words either. Their 2024 Seafood Safety Update urged older adults, pregnant women, and anyone with a vulnerable immune system to limit imported tilapia. Not just because of the contamination risk, but because nutritionally, it's the seafood equivalent of a fast food burger, low in omega-3s, high in question marks. You thought you were eating something good for your heart. Turns out you may have been chewing on a fillet marinated in sewage and denial. And if that weren't enough, multiple investigations in Southeast Asia uncovered forced labor practices in several fish farms. Workers trapped, unpaid, mistreated. So now we're not just talking about food safety. We're talking about dignity, decency, and whether your bargain fish was farmed in misery. But can we blame folks for buying it? When a wild salmon fillet costs $12 a pound and social security checks have to stretch across a whole month, what choices are really left? Maybe that's why institutions keep pushing tilapia, because it balances the books, even if it doesn't balance our health. And when supply chains cross oceans with little transparency, it becomes a guessing game with our gut on the line. Still, we don't have to settle. U.S. farmed catfish, especially from Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas, offers a safer, tastier alternative. These operations are heavily regulated and easy to trace. Local grocers like Publix and H-E-B often discount them, especially for SNAP users, or go for frozen wild Alaskan pollock, affordable, sustainable, and not raised in pig sludge. Feeling adventurous? Try making chickpea fish cakes at home. Mash up canned chickpeas, lemon juice, a pinch of seaweed, and some Old Bay seasoning. It's shockingly fishy, without the filth. So next time you look at that fillet on your plate, ask yourself, was it a healthy deal or a bargain born in a cesspool? And when was the last time you truly knew what you were feeding your family? Number 4. Ground cinnamon in snacks and applesauce. It's the smell that brings you back. Warm cinnamon on toast, grandma's pie cooling on the windowsill, the scent of Christmas mornings in fall kitchens. It's the spice we trust with our memories. So how did it become the thing quietly poisoning our children? In late 2023 and well into 2024, that familiar flavor turned into a national health scare. The Centers for Disease Control confirmed what no one wanted to believe. Dozens of American kids, some still in diapers, had dangerously high levels of lead in their blood. The source? Cinnamon used in snack pouches and flavored purees, the very products parents squeeze into their toddlers' mouths, believing it's healthy, safe, even nurturing. But instead of feeding them comfort, they were unknowingly feeding them heavy metals. This wasn't some off-brand recall tucked into the back of a foreign market. We're talking Wanabana, Schnucks, Weiss, products sold at Dollar Tree, Amazon, Sam's Club. You didn't have to live on the edge to end up in the danger zone. You just had to shop like millions of Americans do every week. According to the FDA's update in January 2024, cinnamon imported from Ecuador, funneled through U.S. distributors in Florida and New Jersey, tested with lead levels hundreds of times beyond the legal limit. Some children showed blood lead levels topping 20 micrograms per deciliter, enough to cause irreversible brain damage, stunted development, and behavioral issues that don't show up until years later. This wasn't one bad shipment. It was a systemic failure, a slow, quiet disaster sitting on shelves for months. Even worse, these toxic batches were used in organic fruit pouches, often labeled as nutritious, all natural, and safe for kids. Over 3 million units were recalled across more than 30 states. But by then, the damage had already been done. And why the delay? Because under current US law, the FDA often must rely on voluntary recalls from the companies, a waiting game where lead hits the bloodstream before anyone hits the panic button. And what did the companies say? Vague statements, no commercials, no loud apologies. Most families didn't even hear about the risk until after their children were tested and harmed. The betrayal wasn't just the contamination, it was the silence. Still, it's hard not to ask, why did this happen? With cinnamon prices rising, global supply chains fraying, and suppliers under pressure, could someone have mixed in lead-laced filler dust to pad the weight? Similar scandals happened before, in India, in Bangladesh. Maybe the importers didn't test, maybe they didn't want to know. But the deeper wound here is structural. A food system so fragile that cost-cutting beats safety, and a regulatory net with holes big enough for poison to slip through unnoticed. And who suffers most? The same households that already get less. The working poor, the retirees raising grandkids, the community shopping by necessity, not choice. So what can be done? Avoid pouch snacks with cinnamon unless the brand is transparent about testing. Look for USDA organic labels from trusted sources. Or go old school, buy whole cinnamon sticks. Ceylon, not cassia. Grind them at home and use them in your own oatmeal or applesauce. Brands like Simply Organic and Frontier Co-op publish third-party test results. Sprouts and Costco carry products labeled single origin or tested for heavy metals. And if fresh fruit's too expensive or time's too short, try canned options like Eden Foods or Mott's Unsweetened Natural, both passed rigorous 2024 safety tests. Read the fine print. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Because if cinnamon, the one spice we thought was pure, can become a hidden threat, what else in the pantry is quietly turning against us? Were we ever truly warned? Number 5. Frozen berries. They're tucked neatly into plastic bags in the freezer aisle, promising summer in every scoop. No spoilage, no stems, just sweet convenience. Berries frozen at peak ripeness, or so the labels claim. For older Americans trying to eat better on a shoestring budget, frozen strawberries felt like a win. You didn't need perfect teeth or fresh produce money, just a blender and a freezer. But now, that frozen handful might come with something else, a virus that can slowly rot your liver from the inside out. Since early 2023 and continuing through 2025, a wave of hepatitis A outbreaks tied directly to frozen strawberries and berry mixes has swept across the US. The FDA and CDC issued at least 4 major health alerts, with the largest recall in March 2024 affecting brands like Great Value, Walmart, Kirkland, Costco, Wawona, and Raider Farms. These weren't niche products. They were sold in over 30 states, in stores trusted by millions. And this wasn't some lab-based potential risk. People landed in hospitals. The CDC confirmed identical hepatitis A, strains in sick patients and leftover berries in their freezers, a genetic fingerprint pointing straight to the source. Hepatitis A is no mild bug. It attacks the liver, causes jaundice, fatigue, and in older adults or those with existing conditions, it can spiral into months of misery or worse. What makes it worse? Freezing doesn't kill the virus, it just tucks it in for a nap. So that frosty berry blend in your smoothie? It may look like health, but act like harm, and the betrayal runs deep. These contaminated products were sold under banners of trust, organic, all natural, harvested with care. Store brands that target families trying to do right. Walmart's Great Value Organic, Target's Good and Gather, Costco's Kirkland Signature. But while the branding spoke of health, the sourcing told a different story. Berries picked in regions with lax sanitation, processed in facilities with spotty viral controls, and shipped under the radar. When the recalls came, they came quietly. A few online notices, maybe a sign in a store you didn't see. No press conference, no primetime commercial saying, "We're sorry." For many, the warning came too late, long after the berries were eaten. Still, it's hard to lay blame entirely on these retailers. The global fruit economy is ruthless. Everyone wants off-season berries at a bargain. Suppliers scramble to meet demand. Sanitation slips. U.S. oversight ends at the border, and beyond that, it's a patchwork of guesswork, contracts, and crossed fingers. When your business is volume, viruses slip through like stowaways. But there's a way out. Skip imported frozen strawberries. Instead, try U.S.-grown fruits like blueberries or peaches, both less prone to contamination and more tightly monitored. Look for brands like Stallbush Island Farms or Cascadian Farm, which are organic and domestically sourced. Or if you can, buy fresh berries during peak season from local markets. Wash them well and freeze them yourself. It's easier than it sounds and often cheaper in the long run. And if you're craving something cold in January, try canned fruit and juice. Rinse it, toss it in the blender with yogurt. Still sweet, still satisfying, no viruses hiding in the frost. So now ask yourself, that frozen berry bag in your freezer, was it a healthy choice or a loaded dice roll? And in a system that warns you only when it's too late, would you even know? Number 6, instant ramen noodles. It's the meal that asks nothing of you. No chopping, no prep, no pans to scrub. Just tear, pour, wait, and slurp. Instant ramen is the unofficial food of broke college kids, exhausted retirees, and anyone caught between a hungry stomach and a tight wallet. For decades, these little plastic-wrapped miracles have kept the lights on in bellies across America. Maruchan, Top Ramen, Samyang, Great Value. Household names in kitchens where a dollar has to stretch like elastic. But what if that comfort food is quietly carving cracks into your health? In 2024, the warning signs boiled over. Consumer Reports and the Environmental Working Group pulled back the curtain on what's really hiding in those tiny flavor packets. Among the villains, TBHQ, a petroleum-based preservative banned in countries like Japan and the European Union, yet still legal in American instant noodles. New studies published that year linked chronic TBHQ exposure to DNA damage and potential cancer growth, even at levels once considered safe. If that doesn't chill your appetite, propylene glycol, a compound also found in antifreeze, makes a guest appearance to keep the noodles moist. But the real gut punch comes when you realize the danger isn't just inside the packet, it's in the packaging itself. EWG's food packaging project in 2024 uncovered PFAS, those infamous forever chemicals, in the foam cups and plastic-lined noodle pouches used by brands like Maruchan and Top Ramen. And because ramen is made with boiling water poured directly into these containers, the chemicals can leach straight into the soup. That's not just a warm meal, that's a toxic bath for your organs. Now add salt to the wound. Literally, a single ramen packet can hold up to 1,800 milligrams of sodium. That's over 75% of the daily limit for seniors, packed into one salty bowl. For anyone living with high blood pressure, kidney concerns, or heart issues, eating ramen regularly is like playing Russian roulette with your arteries. And the cruelest part? These products are marketed directly to the most vulnerable. They show up in food pantries, senior centers, and SNAP-eligible shelves. Not because they're good, but because they're cheap. It's not a budget meal, it's a trap. A meal disguised as mercy, sold with a smile, but seasoned with silence. Still, step back and look at the bigger picture. Corporations aren't the only ones cornered. In a world of rising costs and broken supply chains, offering better ingredients and safer packaging means higher prices. And in a system where people choose between heating and eating, cost wins, even if health loses. So what can you do when pennies matter? Try soba or rice noodles, found at Dollar Tree and Walmart, which boil in minutes and come chemical-free. Add low-sodium broth, a boiled egg, some peas or spinach, and a splash of soy sauce. It's just as fast and far safer. Food banks now often stock dry lentil or bean soups, a healthier swap with no toxic seasoning required. And brands like Lotus Foods sell non-TBHQ noodles at Aldi and Big Lots, clean options for tight budgets. So the next time your hand reaches for that familiar crinkly bag, ask yourself, is it a bowl of comfort or a spoonful of slow harm disguised as a deal? And how many of us grew up eating this, never once questioning what it might be doing to us or to those we love? Number 7. Baby food containing heavy metals. You shouldn't need a chemistry degree to trust what's in a baby jar. Yet in 2024 and continuing into 2025, a stunning truth emerged. Toxic heavy metals, arsenic, lead, cadmium, mercury, are showing up in the very foods meant for the youngest, most vulnerable among us. Testing by healthy babies. Bright Futures revealed that over 90% of baby foods contained at least one heavy metal. Gerber, Beechnut, Earth's Best, and Happy Baby were all named, with rice cereal and sweet potato purees among the worst offenders. Not junk food, not candy, baby food. These aren't harmless traces from nature. The arsenic in baby rice cereal comes from pesticide-laced rice patties. The lead in root vegetables? Likely from polluted soil or industrial water. Some metals even sneak in during processing, through machinery or packaging. And while the FDA offers guidance, there are still no enforceable federal limits on heavy metals in baby food. Even more shocking, internal documents released in congressional hearings show companies knew about the metal levels, sold them anyway. Gerber approved rice with arsenic levels close to the limit for drinking water. Beechnut pledged reform in 2021, but tests in 2024 showed no real improvement. So what can you do? Skip rice cereals, choose oat, quinoa, or barley instead. Brands like Serenity Kids and Once Upon a Farm test their products and post results. Or steam your own purees at home, simple, cheap, and safe. Because when baby food becomes a source of brain damage, someone has to speak up. The foods we trusted for our kids, our wallets, our health, are now exposing a system built on silence and shortcuts. But silence won't protect us. Knowledge will. If this video opened your eyes, don't stop here. Share it, talk about it, question everything in your pantry, and subscribe to our channel for more hard truths they don't want you to hear, because your plate deserves honesty, not poison.
Thank you for watching today's video all the way through. If you found the content helpful, don't forget to click like and subscribe to stay updated to our latest daily videos. Now feel free to check out other featured videos currently shown on your screen. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.